welcome to my ghost Halloween tutorial. So this ghost cookie shape came from the Wilton ghost cookie cutter, and I basically just cut off his arms. So I wanted to make a couple of different style of ghosts, so this is one of them where I cut the arms off just to make them a little bit different. So I'm just outlining my cookie in outline consistency. So outline consistency means a stiffer icing. So you can see as I pipe my line, it's holding its shape. It looks like that kind of rope-like icing, and that's what it's holding its shape. It's not going into a puddle. So that's my outline consistency. If you find your consistency is too watery or too runny, you can always add a little bit more powdered sugar and stir it in, and then you're good to go. And now I'm using my flood, so you can see my flood is coming out a lot looser. It's kind of melting together. So this is my flood consistency. And again, if it's too loose, it's too watery, you're losing control, make sure to add a little bit more powdered sugar and stir it in, and then rebag your icing. Or if it's too thick, you can also add a little bit of water, mix it in, rebag it, and get it going again. If your icing isn't working for you, always make sure to try and adjust it as much as possible, because it'll make your life way easier if you can. I tend to like a little bit of a looser icing, so it kind of settles on its own, as you can see, but not everybody is like that, so do what works best for you. So here I'm going to use Wilton tip number 16. It's a very tiny open star tip. I'll link it below, and I'm just going to make a couple of small pumpkins here. I always make a few extra just in case. So I'm doing 2 little semicircles on the outside, and then I'm going to do one on the inside, and this is just a clear plastic bag that I usually heat seal my cookies in. You can also use parchment paper and pipe it on top. It works just as good. And go in with your scribe if you ever have any little things that you want to fix up there. I had some icing hanging off I just wanted to take off there. And I'm going to add a little stem here. And so I'm going to put this aside to dry. We want it to dry fully, and then I'll be able to pop it off the paper later on and stick it to my cookie. So now that my ghost has crusted over, I'm going to pipe on the eyes. This is my outline consistency icing, my thicker icing. So you can see I'm just kind of building up the icing in a spot there and jiggling my bag a bit. Then I go in with the scribe to smooth it out. It's a very small area. It'll smooth out pretty easy. And here I haven't glued on this pumpkin yet. I was just kind of seeing if this was the right size, because I wasn't sure if I was going to go with the small pumpkin or the bigger pumpkin. So I kind of put it on there to test it out. So I think I'm happy with this one. I think the small pumpkin goes a little bit too small. So I'm just going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to add some of my white icing here. And again, this is my outline consistency. I don't want it to run all over the, the icing transfer that I have here. And I'm just going to basically glue it on with icing. So these are called royal icing transfers, where you pipe something on, parchment paper or a piece of plastic, you let it dry, and then you can handle it and you can glue it onto your cookie. So this kind of makes it easier sometimes, like for this type of stuff, where sometimes it doesn't come out perfect on your cookie when you're piping with the tip if you're not used to it. So you can do them ahead of time and practice a few times and pick the most perfect one or the one that you like the best. And then with my outline consistency green here, I'm going to add a little stem. I'm going to fix it up with my scribe. This is a little bit on the runnier side, but that's okay. It's still holding its shape. It's not puddling everywhere, so it's working for me okay. If it wasn't, then I'd have to rebag it and add a little bit more powdered sugar and do it all over again. In here, I'm just going to add some hands, well, ghost hands, I guess you could say, holding the pumpkin. So all I'm doing is taking my outline consistency and I'm building it up. So I just put a lot in one area, and I'm just going with my scribe to smooth it out. It's my thicker icing, so it does take a little bit to smooth out. When you put a lot in one spot, it's easy to thin out. If I did a very thin layer, like, just kind of went over it once and didn't build up that icing, it would be very hard to smooth out. But you can see I'm kind of holding the bag in one spot and pushing quite a bit to build up that icing. And I'm going in and jiggling my bag as I'm piping, as I'm putting pressure on it, and it's kind of smoothing it out as I go. I'm just going to add a little more to the other side, just to make them nice and even. And then those look like kind of ghost hands holding his pumpkin. And you can always go in with your scribe. The more you kind of jiggle and wiggle in it. I have my scribe pretty deep in there. Usually I only touch the surface. but because this is thicker icing, I want to really make sure it gets nice and smoothed out. This would be a hard one to outline and then fill with flood because of all the bumpy surfaces. So this is a great way to get around that. And that's it, a cute little ghost holding his pumpkin.